I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
This is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where our greatest fear is a guy in a really fake-looking gorilla suit, because this week we watched The God Complex.
Written by Toby Whithouse.
Directed by Nick Horan.
And aired on September 17th, 2011.
Meant to look up how to pronounce his name between last week and this week, but I didn't, so I'm just going to pretend that Horan is correct and... yeah.
Right.
I'm going to do.
All right. So The God Complex.
Yeah.
The episode named in honor of Stephen Moffat. The only Doctor Who crew member to have an episode named after him. I think. I've made that joke like twice before. I don't know why you're so... You think it's so funny now.
I don't know.
I'm tired. Just finished like over an hour of Blake 7 recording. And now anything's funny.
Tired, depressed, exhausted, all of the above. I don't know. I don't know.
That's what, I forget who says this. It might have been Dave Chappelle, who's like, you know, it's really easy to make people laugh. Just make people tense and you can make them laugh. You can make anyone who's tense laugh. Whatever, just raise
I'm pretty
tension.
tense right now.
I was also for stand-up comedians.
I was also trying to think of one for Russell T, but I'm blanking on a lot of Russell T episode names right now.
Well, I was thinking, I don't know, is there anyone in the classic show, like some of the big names, who maybe had an episode named after them? I don't think so.
No, don't think so. Unless Unearthly Child refers to Verity Lambert.
Or maybe like a concept or character in the show named after them. And I can't think of one off the top of my head.
I don't know. I was just reading about the 13th Doctor novels, and there's one called The Good Doctor. And
novels? There are already novels?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was reading the synopsis of the novel, you know, they put on the back of it, and I was like, this sounds a lot like the Ark. They like visit a place, and then one guy accidentally leaves his like cellular telephone behind, and then they go back to retrieve it, but they accidentally land 300 years after they went the first time, and now the humans are subjugated by the other race that they were subjugating before, and they like worship the Doctor as God. It's like a mesh between the Ark and Face of Evil, really, with what it sounds like.
Sounds cool. I like it.
I jive with
theory.
it. In theory. Could suck.
Could be like Spiral Scratch level when you actually read it.
Spiral Scratch was good in theory as well. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I don't even know if Spiral Scratch was good in theory.
What was the pitch for Spiral Scratch? Like what?
Tons of universes collapsing at once.
With eels. Psychic eels.
That was the pitch. That was the pitch. There he is.
What was the pitch for this episode?
People face their greatest
Psychic
fears in a
minotaurs.
hotel.
Yeah.
People face their greatest fears, I'm pretty sure is what it was.
The fear thing was actually added in a later version of the script. But anyway, this story, like most stories in season 6 and... No, series. That's the terminology that people use. Series 6 and 5 was reordered. This was originally commissioned for Series 5, but was moved to Series 6 because Toby Whithouse... I forget exactly why, but Toby Whithouse also wrote Vampires of Venice. So
right.
This one was moved to this season and was shot in hotels, actually, and also some studio work. But what's interesting is that the fear concept of people facing their greatest fears in these rooms was added in a later version of the script. That wasn't originally there. Toby Whithouse, I guess, just wanted to explore different types of faith and incorporate them into the story. So we get the religious faith, obviously, with what's-her-face. But we also get the conspiracy theorist, and we get the gambler and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, I guess it was achieved on screen. But yeah, I find it really interesting that the facing your fears portion wasn't in the original
script.
Yeah, and it does feel a bit incongruous with the rest of it, because there's that connection which is like, really, where the Doctor goes like, oh, it makes you face your fears, so you rely on what you believe in the most for comfort, and it's like, all right, I kind of get how that was shoehorned in. But it works overall.
Yeah, I know. I think this is a good story.
Yeah, I do too.
Story.
I don't think it was.
I think it's a good character study of the Doctor.
But it's very Seventh Doctor-ish, like directly lifted from the Seventh Doctor.
Curse of Fenric.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it for production. There wasn't anything too drastic or appalling that happened.
Appalling.
Sometimes there is. Sometimes, actually, I don't know. I don't know.
Name one thing in the history of the show that's been appalling, production-wise.
Using in The Beast Below, they went to an actual castle, but I don't know, maybe it wasn't The Beast Below. It was something with a castle in it. They went to a castle, but they also used studio work for castles in the story.
That was appalling to you.
Yeah, still haven't forgiven them.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know.
All right, just wanted to make that clear.
All right, good. So they land in the hotel, and there's an indication that they're still trying to go on vacation. Because she's like, oh, we'll go to this planet with giant people, he says.
Who, Amy?
Visitor center's made out of one of their hats, he says.
Well, we get this opening scene before the credits of this woman getting killed. Well, she has some dialogue. She's like, the intervals between my praise has decreased. This is how they all started to go. And then she runs into a guy dressed up as a gorilla.
Well, she talks about how...
It's actually supposed to be a gorilla, but it looks bad.
She talks about how you never know what's going to be inside your room till you open the door, but once you open the door, you realize that it couldn't have been anything else.
Right. This reminds me of a time waster joke that I heard a long time ago about a guy getting chased by a gorilla, and it sort of takes place in an old abandoned mansion, but...
That reminds me of that one about the monk trying to open...
Oh, the 40-minute one?
Trying to find the key to enlightenment, and then you end up by saying, like, well, I can't tell you what you found because you haven't found it.
Ah, you ruined it.
Yeah, well...
Well, the punchline to the gorilla one is that he's just playing tag, but... Which might actually be somewhat funny, after you've sat through this 30-minute joke. Raise tension enough, and anything can be funny.
Tell them that they're going to die at the end of the joke. That'll get them tense. Oh God, when's it going to end? When's it going to end? Tell them they're going to die when this podcast finally ends. 229 episodes in, could end any time.
What's that?
Our life signs are linked to this podcast. If we stop the podcast, we die. When's it going to happen? Play Russian roulette. Spin the wheel.
When Doctor Who ends, everyone who's ever watched the show dies.
Oh, God. Wipe out half the Earth for once.
I think half the population has watched Doctor Who.
At some point. They don't necessarily need to have, continually watched it.
No, but I still don't think it's half.
All right, a quarter.
I don't even know if it would be that high, but hey, I don't know.
I think a quarter is a reasonable estimate.
I don't. I think it's too high. Especially because, consider how many languages Doctor Who has been dubbed or subtitled into. Dozens, but not all of them. Not all of them.
Okay, but...
Also, your willingness to watch an English language show is going to decrease if
all right,
you
a tenth.
Don't speak English. Yeah, maybe a tenth. I don't know.
Kind of like how a tenth of the Earth got killed off in... What was that Russell T story? Where they explicitly mentioned that a tenth of the Earth was dead. One of the Master ones, I think.
I don't remember.
Yeah, anyway, she talks about how you once you see what it is, you realize it couldn't have been anything else.
Right. She gets killed by this gorilla.
Right.
I wonder why her biggest fear is gorillas. There must be something traumatic in her past about
that. When Amy reads the note later on, the note specifies that it was specifically a gorilla from a book she read as a kid.
Oh, yeah. All right.
So, anyway, the Doctor lands like, wow, this is cool. And Amy's like, well, it's just a hotel. And he's like, yeah, but it's a hotel made to look like Earth. That's weird.
Right, so they don't realize that that it's a space station until the end, but it's a replica of an Earth hotel in the 80s.
All the corridors keep shifting, apparently.
Right, it's like Hogwarts. That's something Toby Whithouse pointed out when he was discussing the inspiration for this story is that he maybe this was Moffat. I don't even remember now. Maybe this is one of the things that Moffat sort of interjected, as he always seems to do, of like not wanting to have the story be set in like an old Victorian style hotel or mansion, but capture sort of like a tacky, almost 80s vibe.
Right. I mean, I really like the setting of this.
Yeah, no, I do as well.
I think this is actually a really good character study for the Doctor and Rory, actually. And for Amy to a lesser extent.
Amy and Rory didn't get much in this.
Rory actually got quite a bit with that revelation that he has no faith in the Doctor, like, at all. I think that's a pretty big revelation. But we're going to get there, because that comes a little later.
Play it up that much.
Yeah, but
we'll get there.
It is kind of a big thing, even though they like kind of brush it aside. It's kind of a big thing. But there's all these pictures on the walls, and it's got their names and then something underneath, which you find out is their fear, or their greatest fear.
Right. Or how they died, which, I mean, it's the same. They all died to their greatest fear, but yeah.
Yeah. There's a cat person from New Earth.
Oh, right. There's a Sontaran as well.
Whose greatest fear was defeat. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that. I don't know how you entered a room and they like personified defeat.
Well, maybe because I mean, when Amy enters the room, it's her waiting, so maybe it's like a vision of him getting defeated.
Because I was going to say the conspiracy guy's fear is the stutter that he overcame. So, and they personified that by having him walk into a room with a bunch of girls, and they're like, "What's that?" And Klingon. He's like, "Stop, guys."
But yeah, there's this other group of people who is there, including, like we mentioned, the guy with the stutter, the doctor, not the doctor, but like a doctor,
a nurse.
Is she a nurse? I don't think they ever say. I don't think they ever say. I just assumed she was a doctor, but
I just assumed she was a nurse because nurses typically wear that kind of blue outfit. That's what Rory was wearing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. She probably is a nurse.
Introduced.
Yep. Although, I mean, when doctors go into like surgery, they wear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's also true.
It doesn't really matter.
Then there's the guy from the most conquered planet in the galaxy.
Yeah.
The mole person.
He kind of looked like a Sontaran in a way.
Almost.
And then there is, what's his name?
Joe. We don't meet Joe yet. Joe's having a meltdown.
Tied up.
Joe's having a meltdown in the room with all the
scariest room imaginable.
With all the little puppets, yeah.
But they don't know why they've been taken there. They're all from Earth except for, what is that guy's name? I forget what his name is.
Who, Joe?
No, the alien guy.
Oh, the mole person.
Yeah.
Get something with a G. Gibbous. That's what it was.
Gibbous.
It's from the planet Tivoli.
Yeah, they don't know why they've been taken there. But they gotta figure it out.
Well, they know that once you see your fear, you die. Once you find your room.
Right.
Pretty much immediately, Rita, the nurse, finds her room. And it's her dad berating her about her grades.
Right. Well, they go on, I think, this quest, but they go try to look for Joe because the doctor wants to figure out what's going on. And he's like, well, you know.
Well, also his TARDIS is gone, so he's like, well.
Can't just nope out of this one. But they go to find Joe, and they confront some of their fears, at least now, I believe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Rita finds hers, as does the conspiracy guy. What was his name? Howie.
Right. Which are, like we mentioned, Rita's fear is her dad getting on her case about grades, and Howie's fear is people making fun of his stutter.
Right.
So they meet Joe, and he is tied to a chair in a room full of puppets.
Yeah. And they just kind of wheel him out.
He's sort of ranting and raving about praise
him.
And wanting to die.
And they're like, well,
it's a sequel to Fear Her. Praise him.
They could have named this Praise Him, and then it would have
made people not watch it.
Yeah.
But they wheel Howie out of the room.
Yeah, they make it to sort of the dining room, I think.
Right, and I'm struggling to remember what happens. There's a lot of this episode is dedicated to discussions, quite like good discussions, I think.
Right.
But a lot of it is just kind of sitting around talking.
Well, so what happened? Well, they kind of get split up because Roy sees an exit. And he's like, "Hey guys, an exit!" And no one's paying attention to him. And him, Amy, and the doctor duck into a room with Gibbous, and there's weeping angels in that room. And Howie, and Joe, and Rita duck into a room, which turns out to be Rita's room. And then Howie's bindings kind of magically come undone, and he leaves the room and he gets killed.
Right.
Gibbous believes that the room with the weeping angels was for him.
Which, I mean, it is, right? I mean, that's what it's supposed to be.
So...
Interesting there.
Interesting.
I question, like, the inclusion of that. I mean, I guess the angels aren't necessarily, like, a high-budget villain, but I just question, like, it's kind of just in there, you know?
Looks better than that clown they got.
Yeah.
They find Joe's body, and then they're like, well, that kind of sucks. And Howie finds his room as well, and then they go back to the dining hall, and then they have the first of many discussions in this. First where Gibbous is like, if that room was for me, then your room is still out there. Gibbous is just freaking backstabbing bastard in this.
Yeah, he really is. The doctor calls him out for it later, which we should mention now because it kind of follows, is that the doctor says your cowardice isn't like an innocent type of cowardice. It's cunning and he uses another word, but he says cunning.
He says, how have you, like, you're one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, and how have you survived after being conquered by so much just because you guys are incredibly cunning.
Right.
So that's...
Calling to mind how Homo sapiens outcompeted, like, Neanderthal and all those other guys because of how willing we are, I guess, to backstab and, lie and stuff like that, I guess.
Yeah. Classic Homo sapiens. Anyway, they talk for a little while, and then Howie starts to praise him, and they're like, oh, shoot. And Gibbous wants to just sacrifice him to the Minotaur, because they're like, well, if they take Howie, maybe he'll leave us alone. And they're like, no, absolutely
Use your
not.
brain for a moment, Gibbous. The doctor wants to study Howie and find out what's really going on.
Yeah.
So they set up this trap to lure out the Minotaur. So
They don't know it's a Minotaur.
They don't know it's right. They don't know it's a Minotaur yet. They don't know it's a Naimon.
Oh, but I think the doctor knows because he looks through the peephole of the room with the weeping angels. He looks through the peephole.
Yeah, that's true. He does know.
But they use the sonic screwdriver as a microphone. They broadcast his praise hymns all over the hotel to draw the Minotaur to where Howie is. Then Howie's being possessed, and he convinces Gibbous to let him go.
Right.
So he can die, because he's like, I want to die.
Which he does. He dies. He gets killed by the Minotaur.
The doctor finds his body. He's like, Gibbous, you fool. And they leave, and Gibbous runs off to him. He's like, no, forgive me. You overpowered me. He's like, yeah, sure. This is when we get a conversation between the doctor and Rita. Rita is apparently the doctor's new favorite.
Right. Well, she makes all these comments where the doctor's like, oh, Amy, you're staying with them. Rita,
you're with me.
You're with me now.
At some point, he's like, Amy, you're fired. Rita,
good to go.
You're smart. He offers to Rita to travel with him later on, which goes nowhere because she dies. In this conversation, she talks about how she believes this is the Muslim version?
Yeah, Muslim version of hell.
Of hell? And the doctor's like, oh. And she's like, I'm not afraid of that. I just accept it. Which should really be the first key that the doctor's kind of wrong in this, because he believes that the Minotaur is feeding off fear. And
then showing people their greatest fears to sort of feed off of that, which is like the first assumption that you would make if you know about the Minotaur. And
then the doctor tells everybody to dig deep, find what they believe in, and believe in that to keep the fear away.
Ooh, bad move.
Wonder what Rory digs deep to believe in. Nothing.
Yeah, did we ever get Rory's fear? They do call him out later on as like, you don't have any fears or beliefs, man. You're just an empty husk.
The doctor theorizes that Rory has no fears, and he says, well, after traveling with you, what was there to be afraid of, like in past tense? And the doctor's like, you used past tense. A lot of the stories about the doctor being ashamed that he brought Rory and Amy to somewhere where they could die, where he doesn't have a way to get them out. But they kind of loop back around on this later, and it's not that Rory doesn't have any fears, it's that Rory doesn't have like a strong belief in anything. And the belief doesn't have to be like a religious belief, is what the doctor realizes, because Joe believes in luck. He's a gambler. He believes in luck. Howie believes in conspiracy theories. So, like, the hotel, he believed more and more that it was like an American...
Norway.
Yeah, American hotel in Norway, American black site.
That's pretty funny, actually. He goes like, I know where we are. And they're like, what? It's Norway.
Rita of all people believes in an actual faith, right? She believes in religion. Amy believes in the doctor. We don't know what the doctor believes in, but the doctor does get shown a room that we don't exactly know what's in there. But there are hints at there are hints at what it is in this, and there are hints later on, and you can kind of piece together what it is.
Huh. I couldn't just from this.
And we never see Rory's room, but the hotel keeps showing Rory a way out, and the doctor says, well, that's because like you don't have a strong belief in anything. And that's why the hotel keeps showing you a way out. And I think that's interesting, especially since there's another line in this where, this is actually now when they're having this discussion about hell, the doctor and Rita, Rory is standing with Amy and he says, every time I see the doctor talking with someone, I have this strong urge to notify their next of kin.
Yeah.
Which was funny, but is also like a pretty insightful line about how the doctor gets... It's like a pretty insightful way to say that, yeah, the doctor is causing all these people to die, kind of like what Russell T was trying to do in his final season, what Moffat's been trying to do, but doing it in a lot more subtle way.
Sure, I guess.
But it's interesting that Rory's the one guy here who's like, well, I don't have a strong belief in anything. So...
I guess, there were instances, I guess Rory's either changed his mind or was just lying, where he goes like, I trust, I think it was in Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, where he goes like, yeah, I trust the doctor, totally, or whatever. I don't remember actually which story it's in.
That was before the doctor lost their baby, though.
Yeah, true. I'm going to talk a lot more about like this entire situation, like at the end of this.
Oh, boy.
But anyway, this is when the doctor kind of pieces together that the Minotaur is feeding off of belief.
Yeah, he pieces it together when Rita dies, because Rita's like, I don't fear this doctor. I accept it. I'm
All
at peace.
I fear is her.
Me too, honestly. Me too.
Should have just opened Rory should have just opened the door and it's like the girl from Fear Her inexplicably.
Just open the door and it's Russell T sitting there. Coming for you, Stephen. Open the door and it's the BBC Television Centre. The BBC Accounting Department. Yeah. I'm coming for you, Stephen.
You can run, you can hide all you want. But you can't escape
the BBC Accounting
BBC
Department?
budgetary constraints.
But the doctor's got Rita on like closed circuit footage, and she asks him to turn them off so she can die alone.
Really? I don't remember that. But yeah. All right.
She asks, I think she says explicitly, I think what she says is she wants her faith to be robbed in private.
Huh. Okay. It's interesting.
Yeah. Interesting line. Didn't really have much to say about it, but it's an interesting line.
Yeah, well, that's how the doctor gets like, all right,
Yeah.
Things stealing people's faith.
So they kind of run through the hotel. The doctor finds his own room, which is ironically numbered 11. And he opens it. We don't see what's inside, but we hear the cloister bell from the TARDIS.
Oh, really? I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, you can hear the cloister bell from the TARDIS in the background going inside the door. And he says, I think the line he says is, of course it would be you. And then he closes the door.
Huh. Well, I have some theories, but I'm just going to keep quiet about them for now.
Well, I want to hear your theories.
No, it's...
I know when I watched this, I had no theories.
I don't want to be wrong.
You don't want to be wrong?
No.
What's the point of making a theory then?
I don't know, just for fun.
Exactly.
For private fun.
For private fun. Let me be robbed of my theories in private. I mean, all we have are theories because we never get told what was in this room.
Oh.
Outside this episode or in it.
Oh, you're making... that's interesting. I thought we did. Because you're making it out like we did, but...
I mean, we get hinted heavily about what's in this room based on visuals and kind of throwaway lines, but
all right.
All we have mostly are theories. As far as I remember anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like 2 weeks from now the doctor's come like, yeah, in my room I saw the ice cream man who sold me bad ice cream.
Ice Warriors.
The Ice Warriors. That would be awesome.
Of course it would be you.
Of course it would be. It's the scribble monster from Fear Her. Of course it would be you. It's just like Ian or something.
Ian.
It's Rory.
I never could handle how you challenged my authority.
Susan. Never could handle teaching you to grow up.
Was the doctor a good grandfather?
Put a poll on Twitter. Let's find out what people think. Yes or no.
All 30 people who are going to participate in it. Probably even less, because it's not Blake 7 related. Yeah, I'm calling all you Twitter followers out for only engaging in Blake 7 content that I post. Okay, not really.
Pretty sure Zenith has way higher listenership than this anyway.
It does.
So, like, you know, after encountering his room, everybody kind of accidentally runs into Amy's room.
Which is surprise, young Amy.
Waiting.
You know, gotta give them props. Giving good roles, not roles because it's the same role, but, you know, giving good consistent work to Karen Gillan's cousin here. She's
Caitlin Blackwood.
Yeah, she's appearing a lot more than I would have expected.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you think 11th Hour, all right, it's just a one-off thing showing the sort of backstory or formative years of this character, but no, she comes back quite a bit. In good ways, you know. Yeah.
They do a lot of really interesting framing things with this, where when the doctor's talking with old Amy, they actually used young Amy instead.
Right. But yeah, of course, this is Amy's biggest fear, is having to wait for the doctor again.
And this is where we get a scene straight out of Curse of Fenric.
Right, where the Minotaur is coming to get Amy.
The doctor's like,
the doctor,
don't believe in me. I'm an asshole.
I mean, he lays it on real thick, like, you know, it's pretty obvious what he's doing. Mm-hmm. I feel like
he told Amy he was going to do that too before he did it.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, when they're in the main room where he's like, your faith in me, Amy, is what's
driving
the Minotaur, yeah. So break your faith in me.
Wow.
Is that all you have to say, wow?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't get, like, it works, I guess, but I don't know.
He basically tells Amy, look, I'm just a madman with a box. I'm not a hero.
And he tells her that also he decided to bring her and Amy, her and
Amy.
Her and Rory onto the TARDIS because of his ego.
Yeah.
So there's that.
He just didn't want to be alone. His selfishness, basically. He was selfish in bringing them along.
So what was it in Curse of Fenric? That Seventh Doctor told Ace that she
didn't matter to him, basically.
Right. 11th Doctor does the same here. Breaks Amy's faith in him.
Yeah, except at the end of Curse of Fenric, you know, Ace was like, you were just like lying to get me to stop believing you, right? And Seventh Doctor was like,
we got
we punked him, right? And then they like continue traveling together. At the end of this, the Doctor's like, not gonna really be able to travel with you anymore after that.
Well, I think the Doctor. Well, we can just explain the end of the Minotaur because that happens right now, and then get into the controversial, I think, end of this story.
Well, before we get there, after you explain the Minotaur, there's another scene I want to hit on before we get there in the hotel.
Yeah. So the Minotaur dies. It's like, can't take lack of faith. Sort of keels over, and
the Doctor says something
dies.
about breaking the illusion.
Right. Turns out the entire hotel was an illusion. They're actually on a really cool looking ship.
Right.
Looks almost Tron-like, in a way.
Yeah. Gibbous is like, that's my planet over there. And then I was like, because it would have to be you that survives. The Minotaur says something about living for so long, death would be a present.
Right, which the Doctor translates. The thing doesn't talk. The Doctor also mentions how the Minotaur is a distant cousin of the Naimon.
Yeah. Throwback.
Yeah. I liked that.
Yeah, it was a nice little tie-in. And, but the Minotaur says he's, seen so much death and destruction, killed so many people, so much blood on his hands. And the Doctor's like, yeah, you're pretty much right. And the Minotaur's like, I wasn't talking about me.
Right, well, because it frames this, it starts the sentence with, like, for someone so old, blankety, blankety, blank.
Blood on their hands, so much death and destruction, death would be a gift, a present.
Right.
And he's like, well, I wasn't talking about me, so I'm talking about the Doctor.
It's not about the Master. No.
The Master.
No, he's obviously talking about the Doctor.
Pretty sure based on our kill count, the Doctor's got more blood on his hands than the Master.
The Master killed like a large portion of the known universe in Logopolis.
The Doctor's committed genocide multiple times.
I mean, they're both pretty high up there. It's definitely those two contending for the top spot.
And this is interesting, you know. It's a hint, in my opinion, that what's inside the Doctor's door is not death necessarily, although it might be. Especially since Amy asks the Doctor if the Minotaur is talking about him, and he just brushes it aside and talks about something else. Because Amy tries to ask him what was inside his door, and he says, look at that star right over there. There's a hint that it might be death inside that room, since the Doctor hasn't died for 900 years or whatever, right? Anyway, this other scene I wanted to talk about before we get to the end scene, which is probably going to take up a bulk of the discussion, is when he's talking with Rita and he offers her to come with him, and she says, why you? Why are you the one who has to save us? It's quite a God complex you have there. Doctor really just brushes this aside. She's like, why? And he's like, well, why what? And she's like, well, why are you saving us? And he's like, oh, well, I got Amy and Rory into this. I need to get them out.
Well, to play a doctor's advocate here a little bit, the precedent is, I mean, this is a guy who's almost 1,000 years old, and the precedent in his life is like everyone around him is helpless, and he has the ability to save everyone.
Yeah.
So
at the same time,
it makes sense.
It makes sense, but at the same time, like, it's calling the Doctor out on him feeling like he has to be the one who saves everything, right?
Right.
The first Doctor, the second Doctor, you know, they weren't going out looking for people to save. A lot of their stories were like, oh shoot, we're stuck somewhere, we got to get out of here, right? It wasn't really till like the fourth Doctor when it started being like, I'm gonna fight for the underprivileged and save races.
And even that early in the show, we get the repercussions of that, like in Face of Evil, or stuff like that.
But the 11th Doctor is one who's like, well, I have to make this right. This is my job. You know, like kind of like the Time Lord Victorious thing we said the 10th Doctor almost got there. And, you know, the 10th Doctor did this to an extent too, but
right.
The 11th Doctor being like, well, I have to be the one to save it. I'm the only one who can do this.
Yeah, I feel like his main fault here is that because there's so much of a precedent for him being the one who has to fix the situation or save everyone, that now, and I don't think this is even really debatable, but now he goes into the situation assuming that, you know, things are going to play out where he's the hero and that everyone else can't really do anything. And that's not always the case, as we're seeing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, like, one of his suggestions in the story makes it worse. You know, dig deep, find that faith you believe in. It's like, when you find out what's, like, actually killing them, it's like a doctor.
Right. This is actually a trend. Like, this was in Curse of the Black Spot, right, where the Doctor was, like, wrong countless times and was basically misleading them for a large portion of the episode. And I don't remember if that happened in other episodes this season.
It happened in Girl Who Waited. His hubris is what gets Amy stuck there, right? Where he's like, well, we can just bust into their timeline. It's going to be great. And it's, you know, and then he was wrong. And then he lies about taking the old Amy with just to try to fix the situation.
Maybe that's the running trend of this, or the running thing of this season, because the spot on your hand thing kind of disappeared after Curse of the Black Spot.
Remember, it's the oldest question in the universe for the second half of the season.
I wish they
remember how they dropped that?
Yeah, I wish they put mentions of that in every episode, as grating as it might get, because I kind of did forget about it. Oops.
Yeah, well, they did too, I think. The second half of the season is definitely the least, like, overarching plotline of anything we've had in the reboot so far, because I can seriously not point to anything that would be overarching between Let's Kill Hitler and now.
Yeah, no, I mean, well...
Except the Doctor's hubris,
The characters are a little more constant, I think, in the Stephen Moffat era of the show.
Yeah, that's fair.
That was a big thing about the classic show, right? It's like they do something, it's like they just completely forget about the previous story. All previous stories, like at the start of every new story.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
But anyway, the Doctor goes to drop off Amy and Rory.
He gives him a house. He gives Rory a car. Rory's like, how'd you know this is my favorite car? And the Doctor's like, you showed me a picture once and you were like, this is my favorite car. Pretty much in that exact voice.
Yeah, pretty much. And
it's a nice car. Not gonna lie. Looks like a Jag.
Yeah, I don't think they ever like zoom in and show you what kind of car. I mean, I'm sure people who know a lot about cars would be like, well, that's a blankety blank blank
Pretty
blank.
sure it's a Jag. Pretty sure it's an E-Type, but I don't know.
Oh, all right. All right, then.
We always say something like, she's going to say this is a great gift, but we can't take it because she's going to feel guilty, and that's a risk I'm willing to take.
The doctor tells Rory to go inside and do some wait, I guess.
Yeah.
So he talks to Amy, and he's like, so, leaving you guys.
Amy's like, why? And he's like, I'm saving you. She's like, from what? He's like,
this is
from death.
This is, by the way, a lot more heartfelt than we're making it out to be.
Also, it doesn't really land.
It doesn't feel like a write-out, and I would be surprised if this is their actual write. I don't know for sure. But I would be very surprised if this is actually the last we see of Amy and Rory. Very surprised.
Well, the reason why it doesn't land for me is because, like, not like the Doctor has killed any of his companions in the reboot, right? Like, we haven't...
In the reboot?
Okay,
like, he hasn't done it recently.
Like, so. Adric and Katarina, right? But he's making this out like, you're going to die. Like, you might die. And it's like... I get that they're trying to make out, like, you know, the Doctor got all these other people killed in the story, and, you know, with a whole old Amy last week, and Demons Run, all those people dying, like, he's worried that Amy and Rory are going to die. But at the same time, it's not like we've seen a companion die before, so there's not really, like, precedent for the Doctor's fears here.
No, but I mean, based on what you just said, like, I get it. Like, they've come into so many dangerous situations, so many close brush-ins with death, that, like, I get it.
I get it, but...
I mean, it's not like there's near-death experiences, like, almost every week. So, I get it. I totally get it.
I get it. I mean, good on the Doctor for having the... what's the word I'm looking for? Insight to be able to do this. Then he leaves. And Rory's like, well, where's he going? And she's like, he's saving us. We get a really sad shot of the Doctor looking around the empty TARDIS. And then a next time trailer that spoils the villain of next week, which is great. Just great.
It's that fan favorite, Craig.
The Autons. The Doctor opens his door and it's the Autons. I knew it would be you. It's Craig inside the door.
Oh, God.
Oh, boy.
I knew Craig was coming back.
Oh, but Craig is such a lovable guy.
Yeah, he actually is.
Oh, we love Craig.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm actually pretty glad Craig is coming back.
Yeah, Craig!
But the real villain of next week is the Cybermen.
Classic spoilers. Especially since, if I remember correctly, it's a pretty good reveal next week.
Wow. That sucks.
This is the final time that we have companions who live in the TARDIS while they're traveling with the Doctor.
According to the wiki.
You know, it's true. Every companion from now on is pretty much stated not to live in the TARDIS, that the Doctor picks them up, takes them on an adventure, and then drops them back off at home. That's kind of a sporadic thing.
That's very strange. The show has never done that before. In like the almost 50 years up to this point. They've all been companions on the TARDIS.
It's how Amy started. Picked her up. They went for one adventure and they came back for her wedding.
Yeah, Amy and Rory were sporadically picked up and dropped off. And that's actually something I want to touch on if you don't have anything more to say about. Yeah, so Amy in this scene tells the Doctor, she brings up River. She's like, you know, tell our daughter if you see her, we said hi, or I forget what she says. Mm-hmm. She just mentions River. But like, this is so strange to me. And I know Amy and Rory aren't completely gone yet. I know this isn't really their write out. I don't know for sure, but I would be shocked if it was. So there's more to them. I
mean, they go out in one of the worst ways possible. If you think that's now, then you think that's now.
Well, it just seems like they would be more. I know that they know there's nothing they can really do about this.
Right.
But like their baby was taken from them. Mm-hmm. And I know there's stuff off screen that that they probably went through in regards to this.
There's another line here that kind of ties into this, you know, where the Doctor says there's a even more like thrilling and dangerous adventure waiting for you inside that house with Rory, which I took to mention, like, make another baby, have another kid, right?
Or just
make a family.
We're touching back to the thing from the Ninth Doctor of, like, just regular life is the greatest thing there is.
Right. It is kind of weird how the Doctor basically tells him, like, well, guess you can't raise your daughter. Sorry. And they just kind of accept that.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's months that take place off screen between them. So, I mean, not obviously, but we can imagine that they went through something in that period of time. But
yeah,
I don't know. It comes off a little
odd.
Right?
It does. And I noticed that too, especially since they, like, explicitly mentioned, like, tell my daughter we said hi. I feel like they just dropped that line and no one would have even thought twice about it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of interesting character. This is a big character piece, I think, for the Doctor, for Amy, for Rory. Finding out that Amy's biggest belief is in the Doctor. Rory doesn't believe in anything.
Yeah.
The Doctor has, like, a hardcore God complex, but at least feels some remorse about it at the end of the story.
I think it's a good thing that next episode is the maybe possibly unintentional companion light episode of the season.
Yeah.
Because after we get this big moment for the Doctor, we get this Doctor-focused episode.
Yeah.
And then we get Craig, who can, like, I don't know, speak some mad truth to the Doctor because he's not around him all the time. So hopefully that happens.
And then we get the Wedding of River song at the end of the season, which is, a lot of people consider that,
a shit show.
Yeah. Me included. So it's going to be an adventure. We got an adventure coming. We got a real adventure coming up. But I don't have anything else to say about this. I really like the story.
Yeah, I think it was solid.
Solid up there, top of the season, really. And
I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, I mean, I go weighted obviously above this, but
yeah, Let's Kill Hitler. It's also above this.
No. Opinions can be wrong. Opinions are wrong.
They're wrong all the time.
Yeah.
This one, though.
Any opinion that's not on the show is wrong.
Some opinions that are on the show are wrong.
As you just proved by saying Let's Kill Hitler is up there.
As you just proved by thinking that Let's Kill Hitler isn't up there.
Okay, well, if you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorative.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry reds, love letters, your thoughts on God complexes. You can reach us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Google Play at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you liked the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're watching Closing Time. But until then, the end.